comes to prices, one of the big complaints in this country is about the price of medicine, about the fact that many of the medicines that are purchased have to be branded and are far more expensive in this country than they are elsewhere. And why not replace them with so-called generic substitutes? Well, we've two guests with us. We're going to start with Paul Cullen, the Consumer Affairs Correspondent of the Irish Times, because, Paul, I believe something has finally been done about this, is it?
Yes, we're moving slowly towards an environment where we might see prices go down, although we've heard this sort of thing before. What's happened is that the Irish Medicines Board, which regulates the sector, has published today a list of interchangeable products for one particular drug called atorvastatin. People might know it better as Lipitor. It's a very well-known anti-cholesterol drug taken by tens of thousands of, I suppose, older Irish people to regulate their cholesterol. And what that means is that a pharmacist, when somebody goes into a pharmacist with a prescription, the pharmacist may prescribe or dispense a cheaper version of the same drug, a cheaper generic version of the same drug, thereby saving money both for the patient and, if it's a medical card patient, for the state.
Okay, why not go further and have loads of other products available in a similar fashion?
Well, they don't do things fast in this area. So this is the first of 20 groups of products which is going to be treated in the same way. So we have a list of interchangeable products for atorvastatin, and another 19 lists are going to be published over the coming months. And critically, towards the end of the year in November, the HSE is going to decide on the reference price for each of these groups. And this is the key thing, because
what does that mean? What's the reference
they're going
price?
to set a reference price for, let's say, for atorvastatin, which is the amount that the HSE is prepared to pay for the drug. If you want to get a different version of that same drug, for example, the original product Lipitor, and that's more expensive, you as a patient, you're going to have to pay the difference. But the state will end up paying less, or so it hopes, for the drug. And we're talking about a drug which the state pays something like 51 million a year already on this one single drug. So it's hoping to make savings there. But patients can make savings if they're prepared to accept the cheaper version of the generic. Some people might find that difficult, but they're going to have to pay for it if they want the difference.
Okay, we're also joined by Rory O'Donnell, President of the Irish Pharmacy Union. Hello to you, Rory.
Good evening.
How well do you think is this new system going to work?
I believe it'll work very well. I believe that patients, obviously there's quite a lot of work to do at the counter in the pharmacies, because patients are very accustomed to the brand, perhaps the colour of the medicine and the pack that they're familiar with. So pharmacists have a great deal of work to do at the counter with the patients to reassure them that the generic substitute is equivalent in every way and it will do exactly the same job. But Paul is absolutely correct. Things do move slowly, but it's here now. It's something that we have welcomed as a profession. It's something that we've been pushing for quite some time, that we would have generic substitution in Ireland, and it is finally here.
Rory, how important though will it be that the doctors play ball when it comes to writing prescriptions for people, that they don't specify particular types of brands which then lead the patients to believe that and only that is what they should be given?
I think it's very important that all stakeholders are on the same page, and in the last few days leaflets have been delivered to all healthcare professionals so that we are essentially saying the same thing to our patients. However, the way the reference pricing and generic substitution bill works, as Paul outlined to you, irrespective of the brand that is prescribed, the patient will be offered the choice of a cheaper generic, and if they wanted, for example, to have the original brand that they were always used to, they would have to pay the difference from once the reference price is set, perhaps in November.
Rory, are there loads and loads of drugs that this could be applied to, and could there be enormous savings for the consumer who's paying for their own medicines and indeed for the state in medical card situations?
Yes, there's a very significant amount of savings going to be affected by these measures. Once the reference price is set, and we don't actually know yet at what level that will be set, but certainly already there will be some savings made because there is a difference, and that difference will grow once the reference price is set later in the year.
Okay, going back to you, Paul Cullen of the Irish Times, and you sort of touched on this earlier about how slowly these things move. We have listeners here texting and saying, simple paracetamol, cheapest 12-pack here is €2.10. In the north, it's as little as 25p sterling. Another listener, my tablets in Ireland are €65 per month. In Poland, they're only €15. Another one, and last time I bought a atorvastatin was 24 cent in Ireland, or 4 cent in the north, or maybe that's euros and pounds. And there's loads of examples coming in like this. If it's so obvious, why has nothing been done about it?
Well, prices have dropped, but they've so far to drop. It's incredible, really. I mean, I priced myself atorvastatin 2 months ago for an article in the Irish Times, and the original drug, Lipitor, was being in the West of Ireland pharmacy was costing €48.89 for that. Now, the generics, which should be a lot cheaper, this is the real problem, that generic drugs are so expensive in Ireland. The generics were all coming in at €45.10, just barely below the price of the original drug, which, remember, the company had to invent and spend a lot of money on research and development and so on until it went off patent. Now, the same drug, which is costing €48 or €45 in Ireland, was €9.25 in Derby in England and €10.60 in Newry. So you can see that even if you knock 20% off, as is likely to happen, the price of generics here in Ireland, off that €45, you're still an awful long way to go.
And can I go back to finish with you, Rory O'Donnell? I mean, how much will this matter to pharmacists if the price actually drops? Because presumably you'll still have your margins as long as you get a cheaper supply of drugs.
Well, obviously it'll certainly affect pharmacists, there's no question about that. Having said that, pharmacists have been pushing for a very, very long time for generic substitution so that the state and indeed the patients will save money, and that is going to happen, but there's quite a lot of work to do, as I say, at the counter with the patient, and it's all about the patients. The patient has to believe that the medicine is equivalent, and that there's a huge, huge deal of work to be done to educate everybody so that comes about.
Okay, thank you very much to both of you, Rory O'Donnell, President of the Irish Pharmacy Union, and also Paul Cullen, who is the Consumer Affairs Correspondent of the Irish Times.